Hey, my name is Fred the Finch. You might know me as Ronald. I'm one of the best Yamatos in the game right now, and I'm also known for being able to consistently create a large soul lead in basically all my games. So in this video, we're just going to be talking about how I do that and how you can do it yourself. On Deadlock's last patch on April 17th, Deadlock changed how souls work in lane and how troopers are actually awarding you souls. Basically, before 8 minutes, troopers used to be worth significantly less, but when there were two people in the lane, it would double that soul value. So if one person was missing from the lane, then you would get half the amount of souls that you would usually get. But after this change, troopers are worth about twice as much. Instead of doubling the souls that you get, you both get 60% of the trooper. This doesn't seem like a very significant change at first glance, where if you're just normally laning, you're gonna have about the same amount of souls and you won't really see much difference at all. But if you know how to abuse it, you can get really ahead and snowball a ton of wins. Another change that helped facilitate this strategy a little bit more as well is that the wave interval was increased to 30 seconds from 25, so you also have more time between waves. In order to make this strategy work effectively, it is best to have a duo, and it is especially best to have a duo who plays a support character who doesn't rely on having a ton of souls and is great at rotating. Characters like Paradox, Dynamo, or Kelvin would be perfect for this, but really, you can do it with anybody. And you don't even have to be duo queued, it just helps and makes it a little bit easier. In order to start this strategy, you have to break one of the guardians in your lane. So it can be very helpful to play aggressively and try to pressure their guardian and try to take out their guardian early. By 6 minutes would be the most ideal time, but the earlier the better, and whenever it happens, it works. This also works if your guardian is down, but obviously that's not ideal. But just to keep in mind, if your guardian goes down, you can still do this. Basically, once one of the guardians goes down, you send off your support to go roam around the map, help other lanes, collect boxes, do some camps, and basically help around the map while you sit in lane and soak up all the souls. If you are solo queue, it's important to ask your duo to do this in a way that makes it seem like you're doing them a favor. What I like to do is once one of the guardians goes down, I'll tell them, you can go roam and I'll hold down this lane. This makes it seem like you're doing them a favor and letting them roam and help the rest of the team and get more kills, while in reality, you're just trying to get as fed as possible. Both are still true, and it is helpful for them to be able to roam, but if you just tell them you want to get fed, then a lot of the time they're gonna be a little bit less receptive to that. Because of the change to how troopers work, you will be losing 20% of souls overall, since instead of both of you getting 60% of the souls, you're just getting 100%. But it is important to keep in mind that some characters are more valuable being fed than other characters. Something like a fed Yamato is a lot more threatening than something like a fed Kelvin, where Kelvin can always be useful, but Yamato really needs those souls and relies on them in order to snowball games. As the person who stays in the lane, it's very important to keep in mind that you are 1v2. If you push up too much and you overextend and you give your life, then you're giving them a ton of space and a free kill. And oftentimes, since you're so fed, you have a big bounty on your head, so they get a lot more souls from killing you. So instead of fighting the other laners and risking your life and feeding them a ton of free kills, do one or two waves and then go into a jungle camp. If the wave is pushed up into their space and up to their walker, then you can invade their jungle and you can take their jungle. But if it's not so pushed up, you might want to stay in your own jungle. Stealing their camps can lead to a ton of value, so it is important to limit test and find out when you can invade their jungle and when you can't. You will end up dying in their jungle a few times, but it's important to find out when you can invade and when you can't. And really, that just comes down to experience and kind of a feeling. Obviously, I'm not saying to just go throw an int every game, but if you're not sure if you can take it and you think you might be able to, go for it, see, and if it doesn't work out, keep that in mind for next time. Another crucial part of this strategy is understanding how long you should stay in the lane and when you should leave and go help the rest of your team. While I wish I could just give you a de facto statement of when you should do this and when it's perfect to go help everybody, it really depends on your character, it depends on your build, it depends on your playstyle, it depends on the game, it depends on so many things going throughout the game. So I'm just going to give you more of a guideline. One of the most important things when it comes to roaming is knowing when you're a strong character and when you're weak. This obviously depends on the character and it depends on your build, but in general, you're a strong character right after you max an ability and right after you buy a expensive item. Whether this is a tier 3 or a tier 4, those are both big power spikes that can make you a lot stronger. So if you're sitting in your lane and you have 3 or 4 ability points, or you have 4 or 5k and you're saving for a tier 4, it wouldn't be a good time to roam because really you're down ability points and you're down a bunch of souls. Even though the numbers are ahead, you're not actually taking advantage of those souls or those ability points. On the contrary, for example, if I was on Yamato and I just bought Reverb, then I'm in one of my strongest states and I should absolutely look to go roam and go and help any team fights that I can. But like I said before, this is a lot more nuanced than it might seem at first glance. So if I see something like 5 of the enemy team grouping up in the lane opposite of me, if I go there, I'm not really gonna help the walker, right? Like 3 people isn't gonna stop 5 people from snowballing. So instead, it could be super helpful to just split push my walker, get a bunch of pressure on my walker, and either they have to fall back and go defend me, or they just give me the walker and I trade. And because I'm so fed, if they only send 1 or even 2 people, I'll win that fight and I can keep pushing the walker and I'm alleviating pressure off the other side of the map. So instead of taking a direct approach and going and fighting this group of 5 people, I'm putting pressure on the map, I'm alleviating pressure off of our walker, and I'm getting kills. Something to keep in mind that is important is if you're planning on roaming and leaving the lane for extended periods of time, make sure you're getting somebody to pick up the lane and stop it from just being pushed in and giving up the walker for free. This might sound obvious, but a lot of the time when people go to roam, they forget to get somebody to watch it for them, and then they just give walkers for free. The last tip I have just for being fed in general is to still look for advantageous fights. A lot of the time when you do get fed, it's easy to just force bad fights because you have more money than them and you can win. But if you're constantly forcing these bad fights, you're still gonna lose a lot of them. You're gonna give them comeback souls, you're gonna give them a ton of space, and you're gonna end up throwing your lead. Where if you still just look for advantageous fights, then you'll win them even more handedly, and then you can actually consistently win the game. You can obviously force more fights than you usually could, but once again, just limit test and figure out what you can do and what ends up being a throw. If you have any questions about this or you want to see it in action, I stream almost every day, both on Twitch and YouTube. So come stop by, ask me in the chat, just hang out. It's always a good vibe too. And you can also obviously ask any questions in the comments or in my Discord, which is also linked below. And if you learned anything, I'd appreciate a like, a sub, a comment as well. Appreciate you for making it this far.